All right, for this next section, we're going to start to add in our colors. So what I'm going to do is turn off our rough layer so we have just our clean line art layer. I'm going to make a new layer and put it underneath my clean line art. We could go ahead and add our colors. So what I'm going to do is grab my selection tool or my lasso tool and come in here, and we're just going to outline this entire shape, okay? And it might take a minute, but that's okay. It's going to be totally worth it because once we have this outline, we can fill it in with one big color, and that will allow us to make sure that going forward, when we're adding effects or painting, different stuff like that, adding our shadows, we won't be going outside the line at all, and we won't have to worry about being all careful, and we'll keep everything nice and neat and crisp and clean, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and outline this whole thing. I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to wait forever. And then after that, we'll go ahead and move on with adding color. All right, so now I'm gonna get a color that I want to fill it in with. I'm gonna pick this near white color. It's not quite white, but it's pretty close with a little bit of warmth added to it, okay? And that's what we use to fill it. Now, what we need to do is look over it and make sure there's not any sort of cutouts we need to do, which it looks like there's one. So this spot right here, we're gonna go ahead and cut out. All right, and then just grab our eraser tool. There we go. Awesome. So we have that done. Now when we select this, it'll make sure that we don't go outside any of our lines. So let's start coloring this thing. So I'm gonna start a new layer, and on this layer, I'm going to do all of the clothes and things like that, like the gloves on his feet, his bracers, his belt, and stuff like that. So we're gonna start with that first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get a brush. I'm gonna go with a nice hard airbrush, and we're gonna get a nice brown color going for the satchel here. And because we have that layer selected, we'll be sure we don't go outside any of our lines of the silhouette anyways. Okay? And we're gonna come in here and just start painting. Okay? Now something that you're gonna wanna keep in mind is making sure that you go all the way to the edge. You really want this to be crisp and clean and really look neat, right? You don't want sloppy lines. Cell shading is an art style that's very deliberate. Everything is very crisp in the final product, and it doesn't really have any sort of a sketch quality to it. So let's make sure that we get it really tight. Nothing sloppy, okay? These buckles will do a different color. We'll probably do those silver. Because I'm thinking for the creature, I want him to be kind of like orange and white patterns. So I don't want to do gold because I feel like that will clash, but we can do, we're gonna do silver. That'll look really nice. Right now I'm just painting over the vials because on a separate layer above this one, we're gonna go in and paint those individually. So I'm not really worried about that right now. That's not gonna be a big deal. It'll be pretty easy to go back and change. We're gonna be painting over them anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then since we have it set up so we can't go outside the lines, I can blow up my brush and fill this all in without having to worry. Perfect. Going to make the pouches, at least maybe just like the body of the pouches, a slightly different color, just to break everything up that's happening over here. And then we'll do this strip of leather a different color as well. Okay, perfect. That looks good. I'll do this strap right here as well. Actually, we're gonna leave that one. All right, let's do the buckles. So like I said, they're gonna be this silver color. And we're not doing any shadows yet, nothing like that. We're just keeping this real simple with just colors for now. Flat colors, no lighting, nothing like that. I do see though that we need to, let's clean up that edge we messed up. And then also, I'm gonna come to my line art layer really quick and fix that right there. Perfect. Come back to our colors. Awesome. All right, let's do these bracers. I want the bracers to be a little bit redder of a leather. And we'll just fill that in there. All right. And on the other side. Perfect. Grab my erase really quick just so we can clean up that edge right there. Perfect. All right, then we're gonna do the bands, the little strings here, the same color as the lighter part of the pouches. I see up here some spots where we could go back with that brown and clean up that edge. There we go. Okay, awesome. Let's do these little palm things down here. Gonna go with a little bit lighter, almost a gray color, gray brown. We'll grab that other foot. Perfect, and then for the wrap on his legs, we're gonna go with a really dark gray to do that part. So, looks good for that. Let's go ahead and move on to a new layer. This layer, I'm going to do all of his, we're gonna do like his horns, his teeth, fingernails, and we can do the glass vials and the beaker on this layer as well. So I'm gonna use this really dark, almost black color for his horns. If you want something to look black, don't actually pick all the way black, right? Because then there won't be any room for you to go into shadow. What you wanna do is pick a dark color, like this dark gray, and then you can shade it and it will still look black in comparison to everything else. So you can see we're not quite black on the color picker, but on our image it looks like his horns are black, okay? We'll do his toenails, which I want to be this dark gray color. Okay. His teeth, which are going to be kind of like this off-white yellowish color. Let's really get in here and make sure we get this all filled out, especially since these colors are so close to each other. Okay. There we go. Let's do the beaker. liquid is going to be like a yellow, golden yellowish color. And I think we actually want to reverse the way we did that. So instead, I'm going to have the lighter yellow be the top and the darker part be the bottom. Let's fix that really quick. All right, perfect. So there's that. And then, oh yeah, let's do the vials as well. So let's get this glass color that we picked up here. And do that. And then let's pick a color for the cork. And then each one of these vials is going to have a different color substance in it. So this one we're going to do green. Okay, next one let's do blue. And then the last one we'll do red. All right, perfect. That looks great. And then while we're also on this layer, we can go ahead and do his eye too. So I'm gonna do his eye this really bright blue. Okay. All right, excellent. Let's move on to doing his skin. So this layer is going to be beneath the other two layers we just did. This way, when we paint the skin, we don't have to worry about going around any of these other objects we've already painted. So for his back, I want there to be, we're gonna go with an orange, but we need to find the right orange. Luckily, since we're doing this all in its own layer, we can come back pretty easily and just change it with the hue saturation slider, okay? So, that being said, let's try this out. Make our brush even bigger than that. Now, in cell shading, there's typically not any blending, so if you want there to be a transition between two colors that's not just super stiff, what you would need to do is create shapes similar to this, and that would kind of show a little bit more of a transition instead of having such a hard-edged blend to this new shape. Might be too many there. Okay, let's do his head. Okay, then we'll have this come down on his nose. Bring our brush size down a little bit. So that looks pretty good up there for his head, his face area. Excellent. Let's move on along his neck here. And the top of his thighs. Okay, come down here on his side, the bottom edge. All right, bring it over here to his other thigh. Okay, bring my brush size down. We're just gonna break up some of these circle shapes a little bit so they aren't quite just perfect circles. Let's do his other arm over here now. Bring our brush size back up a bit. Alright, perfect. So that looks pretty cool, I think. Now we can take our slider. If we want to adjust it, we can adjust the saturation or the hue a little bit. I think it's pretty close to where I want it. Maybe just a tad bit darker. And then for this layer underneath, we're also going to adjust that, his sort of like his skin layer. And we're going to have it be right about there. Okay, and then maybe even, let's try saturating it just a little bit more. Do we want it even more towards the orange? No, I think we want it about there is good. Okay, so we have that, but we're not quite done yet. I'm going to make a new layer. We're going to select the shape again, and on our orange layer, we're going to bring this a little bit redder and a little bit darker and a little bit more saturated. We're going to do another layer of spots just to really help add a little bit more depth and interest to his skin tone. Okay, so painting this on top of our previous orange layer, and it's just kind of like a second layer of spots to add a little bit more visual interest to things. So I'm going over almost all the other places we already went over with the orange, just pulled back a little bit on the edges so that we can still see that lighter orange showing through. But we're still going to come in here and add some, just a little bit. Okay. Get up here on his head and bring my brush size down a bit. There's his head. Go ahead and do his side just a little bit right here. his leg here, the top of his leg. His other leg. Okay, almost finished here. Bring my brush size up, get some bigger chunks going. Excellent. So I think that looks about good for that layer. Some things I want to adjust though. His teeth, I'm noticing compared to this, look really not very bright. So I'm going to do the teeth layer. I'm going to bring up the saturation and darken those suckers just a bit so they actually show up. Yeah, we want them, actually, I don't know if we want them too dark. We just want them more saturated. That looks better. Let's also, just this entire layer with all of the artifacts on it, like his clothing and stuff, I'm going to lighten it just a little bit. Bring the saturation up to match it as well. Then for these other layers, like the orange layer for his skin, we're going to adjust this. I think it's maybe a little bit too bright, or too dark I mean. And then this one too, we're going to bring it up just a bit. Okay, and then for his skin layer, we're going to darken it as well just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks better, right about there. And then let's just try this. I want to experiment and see what it looks like if we add a little bit of a lighter color. One more layer for his skin. So I'm going to select his skin color and then go a little bit lighter with it. And this we're going to add just splattering in on his chest a little bit and under his jawline. Maybe in around his eye, his ear. I think that helps. Looks good. Remember, you want to be keeping pretty crisp, clean lines here, because we are still trying to hit that cell shading sort of feel. We're going to go ahead and bring it all the way down into here in his belly. Now we also need to remember to do his nipples as well. All right. So I'd say that looks pretty good. Maybe, do we want to lower this just a little bit? So I'm going to darken that up just a little tiny bit and warm it just a little tiny bit. All right, and that gives us a couple layers worth to work with of color variation. And then the last thing we just need to do is going to be the ground. So let's go ahead. We'll finish that up. Oh, one more thing before we move on to the ground. So we're going to create a new layer here. We're going to set this one to overlay this time. And I'm going to select the shape so we're not painting outside the lines. And we're just going to add a little bit of color variation in his face. So with that overlay selected, I'm going to go ahead and get a soft airbrush. We're going to keep it pretty small. And in this area around his eye, we're going to add a little bit more color. Okay, same with around his nose area. his lip, his mouth. Okay, tips of his ears we'll get as well. Excellent. And then we can throw some in around the base of his horn. Then we're going to go with a yellowish color. We're going to get the brow of his face a little bit. And then a blue to light, probably go somewhere about there, the lower half of his face, his jaw. This is called facial banding. And it just helps it feel like there's some life to him. There's blood flowing through his face. It's not just all flat. Okay, now right now it looks a little silly, it looks like a clown, but we're just going to take this and lower the opacity down really low to, about, looks like 20% looks good, I think. Maybe 25. No, yeah, 25 looks good. And then I'm going to take the airbrush and just clean up a little bit around the eye. Doesn't look very good when it heads over into the orange area, so I'm going to clean that up. Perfect. So now we can go ahead and do the ground. So new layer below all the others except for our shape layer. Go ahead and select that, and we're just going to get a nice tan dirt color. And make sure we have a hard brush. I'm going to use the large one this time. And come in here and do the dirt. Oops, it's too big. We'll get our eraser tool, clean it up. There you go. Looks pretty awesome. Just gonna readjust a few more things. I'm gonna tone this back down to 16%. It was still a little bit too strong. And there you go. That's it for our color layer. Next layer, we can go ahead and start adding our shadows. So I'll see you guys in the next one.